On Sunday, Ian was preaching from the last section of Mark chapter 1. And if you weren't around on Sunday, if you were out with the kids or whatever and you missed the sermon, can I encourage you to go online and listen to it again? I'm going to chuck the link down below in the description. There's just one thing that I want to pick out from what Ian said on Sunday. So the story is that there's a man who has leprosy who comes before Jesus. And he says, "Lord, if you're willing, you can heal me." Now this man, as a leper, would have been living outside the town in a colony because all lepers were separated from society, as the Jews felt that if they touched somebody with leprosy, they would become ritually unclean, because people with leprosy were themselves ritually unclean. And many people lived their whole lives in those colonies, and because they were never able to be rid of the disease and then be reintegrated into society. And so this man is desperate, and he comes to Jesus and says, "If you're willing, you can heal me." And then we see this really important verse 41. It says, "Moved with compassion, Jesus reached out and touched him." Now, anybody touching a leper risks becoming ritually unclean, but Jesus isn't bothered by that. He touches the man. But the key thing there is this phrase, "moved with compassion." And the original Greek word there for compassion is more accurately translated sometimes as anger. Now, it's not that Jesus was overcome with rage at this point, like he was at risk of becoming the Incredible Hulk, but it's like a righteous anger. You know, when you see something that is so unjust that it just stirs something within you and you think, this has to change. This cannot stay the way that it is. And I wonder, have you ever experienced that yourself? Have you ever seen somebody in such dire straits that there's something within you that just cannot let that sit? Maybe you remember a couple of years back the picture of the young Syrian boy, Alan Kurdi, whose body was washed up on the shore as his family were trying to flee across the sea to escape from the war in Syria. And it sparked off this wave of compassion in our nation and across Europe, which is still going on today and unfortunately seems to be lessening. And perhaps we need to regain that sense of righteous anger that says we cannot let people like that suffer the way that they are. Maybe you've seen people homeless on the street and you just wonder, what decisions have they made? What problems have they had in their lives that's made them get to this point? But is there something that I can do to help? Maybe it's closer to home and there's somebody in your family, maybe one of your friends, who's suffered in some way, and it stirs up this well of emotion within you that says, I've got to do something. I challenge you today, this week, to look out, look around you. Who are the people that you're coming into contact with who are in desperate need of your compassion, of your righteous anger? And when you see those people, will you do something about it? Will you reach out and touch them? There's an element of risk involved there. For Jesus, touching that leper, the people around him would have then looked on him as being ritually unclean. They would have been completely astonished by the fact that he would even go near this man. Jesus wasn't bothered, because to him the most important thing was this man's need, and he had the opportunity to bring some change in his life that was so desperately needed. So church, can we be moved with compassion the way that Jesus is moved with compassion, and follow that compassion through with action to see change in people's lives for the glory of God? Have a great week.